Lieutenant Natalie Curtis yawned as she checked the sensors of her patrol ship for the fifth time that hour. Nothing had changed since her last check. The endless blackness of space near Neptune's orbit remained empty, just as it had been for the past 3 weeks of her patrol mission. Just 2 more days, she muttered to herself, taking a sip of the lukewarm coffee from her metal thermos. The UES Pathfinder was a small but reliable vessel, designed for long patrols in the outer solar system. With a crew of only 4, everyone had to pull double shifts. Tonight, Natalie had the bridge to herself while the others slept. She was about to run another routine scan when the sensor panel lit up with warnings. At first, she thought it was a malfunction. The reading showed an object nearly 2 miles long suddenly appearing just 20,000 miles from their position. "That's impossible," she said, tapping the screen. "Nothing that big could appear out of nowhere." "Computer, verify sensor reading." Sensor reading verified. The ship's computer responded in its flat voice. "Unknown object detected. Mass and size exceeding all known human vessels." Natalie hit the ship-wide alert. Within seconds, the rest of her crew scrambled onto the bridge. "What do we have, Lieutenant?" asked Captain Greg Winters, still pulling his uniform jacket on as he entered. "Unknown vessel, sir. Very large. It just appeared." The captain leaned over the sensor display and frowned. "No approach vector." "Nothing." "No, sir. 1 second nothing was there. The next second it was." The communications officer, Ensign Rita Baker, spoke up from her station. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the unknown vessel. It's not using any of our standard frequencies." "Put it through," ordered the captain. The main screen flickered, and everyone on the bridge fell silent. The being on the screen wasn't human. It had pale blue skin, 4 eyes arranged vertically on its face, and what looked like feathery gills along its neck. It wore some kind of metallic uniform that seemed to shift colors as it moved. "People of Earth," the being said in perfect English, though its mouth movements didn't match the words. "I am Ambassador Krell of the Zithrani Confederation. We come with peaceful intentions and an urgent request." Captain Winters straightened his uniform and stepped forward. "This is Captain Greg Winters of the United Earth Space Force vessel Pathfinder. You're in Earth-controlled space. State the nature of your urgent request." The alien, Ambassador Krell, blinked its 4 eyes in sequence. "Captain, we have traveled far to find your species. We need your help. My ship carries representatives of our government who wish to speak with your leaders." "What kind of help?" Natalie asked before she could stop herself. The alien hesitated. Its feathery gills fluttered. "That is complicated. The matter requires discussion with your world's authorities." Captain Winters spent the next hour in careful communication with the alien vessel while simultaneously reporting back to Earth Command. Natalie watched as decisions were made rapidly at the highest levels of government. Within 3 hours, they had new orders. "Lieutenant Curtis," the captain said, turning to Natalie, "you're being temporarily reassigned. You'll board the alien vessel as Earth's representative and escort their delegation back to our base on Luna." "Me, sir?" Natalie asked, surprised. "You made first contact, Lieutenant. Besides, your diplomatic training makes you the most qualified person on this ship. Earth Command wants someone on their vessel as we escort them into the inner solar system." 6 hours later, Natalie found herself standing in a transport pod, heart pounding as it docked with the enormous alien ship. The door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a corridor that seemed to be made of some kind of flowing metal. Ambassador Krell waited for her. "Lieutenant Curtis," the ambassador said, "welcome aboard. You are the first human to enter a Zithrani vessel." "It's an honor," Natalie replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "Though I admit I'm curious why you sought out Earth specifically. We're not exactly an advanced spacefaring civilization yet." Ambassador Krell's gills fluttered again in what Natalie would later learn was an expression of nervousness. "All will be explained in time," the ambassador said. "But I can tell you this. Your species possesses something very rare in the galaxy, something the 17 civilizations of the Confederation desperately need. "And what's that?" Madeley asked. "Something we lost long ago," Krell said softly. "Something we fear cannot be regained without your help." 6 months had passed since the Zithrani ship appeared near Neptune. In that time, Earth had changed forever. The news that humans were not alone in the universe spread across the planet, causing both fear and excitement. World leaders formed a united council to deal with the aliens. Scientists studied the small pieces of technology the Zithrani shared. And Jack Holloway, who had been teaching cultural anthropology at a small college in Boston, found himself packing for a journey to the stars. "Professor Holloway, please follow me," said his guide, a young woman from the newly formed Earth Diplomatic Corps. She led Jack through the massive space elevator that had been built with Zithrani help. It connected Earth to the orbital station, where the first human delegation would depart for the Galactic Confederation. Jack adjusted his glasses and tried to calm his nervous stomach. Just last year, he had been giving lectures about ancient human cultures. Now he was about to study alien ones. "Why me?" he had asked when they first approached him. "I study human cultures, not alien ones." "That's exactly why," the official had told him. "We need someone who understands how cultures develop and interact, but who doesn't have preconceived notions about alien life." The space elevator opened into a large room filled with 20 other humans selected for the mission. Scientists, linguists, engineers, and even a few artists stood around nervously as they waited to board the Zithrani ship that would take them to the Confederation's central space station, known as the Nexus. "Welcome, delegates of Earth," said Ambassador Krell, entering the room. In the months since first contact, humans had learned more about Zithrani body language. Jack noticed the ambassador's gills were relaxed, showing he was comfortable. "Our journey to the Nexus will take approximately 14 Earth days. There you will meet representatives from the 16 other civilizations that form our confederation." The journey passed quickly as the humans marveled at the speed of the alien ship and the technologies it contained. Jack spent most of his time studying the information about the different alien species they would meet. When they finally arrived at the Nexus, Jack could hardly believe his eyes. The space station was enormous, a massive ring structure larger than Earth's moon, spinning slowly to create artificial gravity. Ships of all shapes and sizes docked along its outer edge. "This station is over 5,000 years old," Ambassador Krell told them as their ship approached. "It has been expanded many times as new species joined the Confederation." Inside the Nexus, Jack felt like he had walked into a dream. Aliens of every description moved through wide corridors. Some floated on anti-gravity platforms. Others walked on multiple legs. Some didn't seem to have a physical form at all, appearing instead as shimmering clouds of light. "Stay close," warned their human security officer, Susan Weber. "It's easy to get lost here." During the first few days, Jack attended official meetings where human representatives were introduced to the Confederation Council. But he found himself more interested in watching how the aliens interacted with humans during breaks and meals. "They're studying us," he told Susan on their third day. "Have you noticed? They watch everything we do." Susan nodded. The security team noticed too. "At first we thought it might be hostile, but it doesn't seem threatening. More like intense curiosity." Jack had seen this behavior before. During a field study in the Amazon, he had observed an isolated tribe's first contact with outside researchers. The aliens' fascination reminded him of that same wide-eyed wonder. After a week on the Nexus, Jack couldn't stand it anymore. During a reception, he approached a tall, thin alien with purple skin that Dr. Olivia Martinez wiped her sweaty palms on her pants as she entered the High Council chamber. The room was circular with a domed ceiling that showed the stars outside. 17 raised platforms formed a ring, each holding representatives of the different Confederation species. The human delegation sat at a temporary platform that was lower than the others. As Earth's lead xenobiologist, Olivia had studied the alien biology reports for months. But reading about aliens and sitting in a room full of them were very different experiences. Some looked almost human. Others seemed impossible, like the Myroni, who appeared to be made of living crystal. Ambassador Krell stood near the humans, ready to translate anything the universal translators missed. The lights dimmed, and a single spotlight shone on the oldest-looking alien Olivia had ever seen. "That is Council Elder Vora," Krell whispered. "She is from the Elfori race, the founders of the Confederation. She is over 700 years old." Elder Vora was tall and thin with pale skin that looked like paper. Her eyes were large and completely black. When she spoke, her voice was soft, but reached every corner of the room. "Representatives of Earth," she said, "we welcome you to the Galactic Confederation. For 50,000 years, our 17 species have shared knowledge and resources. We have cured diseases, ended hunger, and extended our lives. Our technology has advanced beyond what your people can imagine." She paused, her black eyes scanning the humans. "And yet, we need your help." A murmur ran through the human delegation. How could these advanced beings need help from humans? "I will be direct," Elder Vora continued. "Our civilization is dying. Not physically, but mentally. We have reached a crisis that threatens all our species." She pressed a button, and a hologram appeared in the center of the room showing a graph with a steep decline. "This shows the rate of true innovation across our civilizations over the past 5,000 years. As you can see, it has been falling steadily. In the last 500 years, it has nearly stopped completely." Captain Lisa Reyes from the Earth delegation spoke up. "Excuse me, Elder Vora, but what do you mean by true innovation? Your technology seems incredibly advanced to us." "An understandable question," the Elder replied. "We can improve existing technologies. We can make things smaller, faster, more efficient. But we cannot make creative leaps to entirely new solutions or ideas. We perfect what we know, but discover nothing truly new." Dr. Martinez felt a chill as she began to understand. "You've optimized yourselves too much," she said suddenly, and all eyes turned to her. Elder Vora's mouth curved slightly. "Precisely, Dr. Martinez. In our quest for advancement, all 17 of our species chose similar paths. We used genetic engineering to enhance logical thinking. We built our education systems around efficiency and reason. We created perfect, orderly societies. And you lost something in the process," Olivia finished. "Yes, we lost chaos, unpredictability, the ability to make intuitive leaps that defy pure logic." The Elder's voice grew sad. "We lost creativity." The room fell silent as the humans processed this information. "That's why you've been studying us," said Jack Holloway, who sat next to Olivia. "You're fascinated by our unpredictability." Another alien spoke up, a blue-skinned being with tentacles instead of arms. "Your species is remarkably inefficient. You make mistakes. You follow hunches. You create art that serves no practical purpose. You tell stories about things that never happened. To us, these traits seem primitive," suggested one of the human scientists, sounding offended. "Miraculous," corrected the alien. "We have forgotten how to think as you do, and now we face challenges we cannot solve with logic alone." Elder Vora nodded. "3 major crises threaten our civilization. A new form of space-time distortion is disrupting travel between systems. An aggressive silicon-based life form is spreading through the outer regions, and our population growth has stalled as fewer of our young find purpose in a world where everything seems already discovered." She looked directly at the humans. "We do not ask for your technology or your resources. We ask for something far more valuable: your minds, your creativity, your human perspective. Will you help us?" Olivia looked around at her fellow humans. They had come expecting to be the students, learning from advanced aliens. Instead, they were being asked to be the teachers. Alan Rodriguez was not what most people would call a proper engineer. His college professors had often scolded him for skipping steps and following hunches rather than established procedures. Even at his job at a small tech company in Arizona, his boss regularly reminded him to follow the manual. But here, in the gleaming laboratories of the Mintaki homeworld, his unconventional methods had just solved a problem that had stumped alien scientists for decades. "I still don't understand how you reached this solution," said Chief Engineer Lant, a tall Mintaki with green skin and 6 fingers on each hand. She studied the energy distribution model Alan had sketched on a holographic display. "You skipped 17 logical steps in the standard approach." Alan shrugged. "I just thought, what if we treat the energy like water flowing downhill instead of particles moving through a grid?" Then I remembered how my grandmother's old garden irrigation system worked, and the solution just came to me. The Mintaki engineers looked at each other with expressions Alan had come to recognize as amazement. It had been 8 months since the human delegation returned from the Nexus with the shocking news. Aliens needed humans not for their resources or technology, but for their creativity. Across the galaxy, humans were now working with alien species, bringing fresh perspectives to old problems. The Confederation provided faster-than-light transport ships to carry human volunteers to different worlds. In return, Earth received medical advances that cured most diseases and clean energy technology that solved the climate crisis. That evening, Alan joined other humans at the residential complex built specifically for them. The dining hall buzzed with conversation as people shared their experiences. "The Zithrani asked me to redesign their ship interfaces," said Rosa Kim, a video game designer from South Korea. "They couldn't understand why I suggested making the controls less efficient by adding physical buttons. I had to explain that humans like tactile feedback." Nearby, Kate Wilson was surrounded by Elfori who hung on her every word. Kate had been a fiction writer from Portland who struggled to pay her bills. Now her novels were bestsellers on 12 alien worlds. They especially love murder mysteries, she told Alan when he sat down with his food. The idea of solving a puzzle with intuition instead of pure logic fascinates them. "My latest book sold 10 million copies, and I had to explain that I don't actually plan the endings. I just write and see where the story takes me." The aliens found this concept of seeing where things go almost magical. Most Confederation species had lost the ability to function without detailed plans and logical structures. Their art was technically perfect but lacked soul. Their music followed mathematical patterns but created no emotional response. Over the next few weeks, Alan's energy distribution solution was implemented across the Mintaki homeworld. Power outages that had plagued their cities for years disappeared overnight. The Mintaki Council awarded him their highest civilian honor, a medallion made of a metal that constantly shifted colors. During the ceremony, a message arrived from Earth. The United Nations Space Agency had selected Alan to join a special team addressing an even bigger challenge: the space-time distortions that threatened interstellar travel. "We need you on Centauri Station," said the holographic message from Admiral Patel. "We're gathering our most creative problem solvers. There's a Confederation ship leaving tomorrow to bring you there." As Alan packed his few belongings, his Mintaki assistant, Rhett, watched with curiosity. "I don't understand why you humans don't seem surprised by your abilities," Rhett said. "You've revolutionized our world in months, yet you act as if this is normal." Alan paused, considering the question. "I guess because to us, it is normal. Throughout human history, we valued both logic and intuition. We never specialized in just one way of thinking." "My species chose efficiency," Rhett said softly. 5,000 years ago, we began selecting for logical thinking in our offspring. We thought emotion and randomness were weaknesses to overcome." Alan smiled. "Sometimes the best solutions come from the strangest places, like looking at an energy grid and seeing my grandmother's garden." As he boarded the ship the next day, Alan saw hundreds of Mintaki gathered to see him off. Among the crowd were children holding colorful drawings. the first truly creative art their species had produced in generations, inspired by the visiting humans. Steve Bennett never expected his art school degree to take him to the stars. Back in Chicago, he had struggled to find steady work as a graphic designer. Now he sat in a large room on board the Atraxian flagship, surrounded by alien military officers who watched his every move with their 4 eyes. "The pirates always attack from these 3 routes," said Commander Vrex, pointing at a holographic map of a star system. The commander's skin was deep blue with patterns that shifted when he moved. "We've increased our patrols, but they still manage to slip through." Steve studied the map, turning it around with hand gestures he had learned. The Atraxian fleet had been battling space pirates for years without success. The pirates raided shipping lanes, stealing valuable resources and disappearing before the military could respond. "You're thinking about this all wrong," Steve said, standing up and walking around the hologram. "You're being predictable. The pirates know exactly what you'll do because you always follow the same patterns." The aliens looked at each other. The idea of deliberately being unpredictable was still strange to them. "What would you suggest?" asked Commander Vrex. Steve smiled. "Let me show you." Over the next 3 hours, Steve redesigned the Atraxian patrol strategy. He suggested hiding ships behind moons where sensors couldn't detect them. He created fake cargo ships as bait. He even proposed changing the color patterns of military vessels to confuse the enemy. "This plan has a 42% lower efficiency rating," said one officer, looking troubled. "But a much higher chance of success," Steve replied. "Sometimes you need to be less efficient to win." 2 years had passed since humans began working with the Confederation. What started as a small group of advisors had grown into a major operation. Over 10,000 humans now lived and worked on alien worlds as creativity consultants. The aliens provided transport ships that could travel between stars in days instead of years. They shared medical technology that extended human lifespans and cured diseases. Earth received clean energy systems and advanced farming methods that ended hunger and poverty. In return, humans brought fresh ideas to civilizations that had grown stale. Nancy Gomes, a chef from Miami, introduced new food combinations that delighted alien taste buds. Kyle Brown, a musician from Detroit, taught aliens how to play jazz, helping them understand that sometimes breaking musical rules created the most beautiful sounds. Even children made contributions. When 8-year-old Lily Parker visited the Elfori homeworld with her parents, she showed alien children how to play pretend games. The concept of imagining things that weren't real fascinated the logical aliens. Not all the work was fun or easy. In a laboratory on Centauri Station, Alan Rodriguez and a team of scientists faced their biggest challenge yet. The space-time distortions were growing worse, disrupting travel between systems. "The conventional models aren't working," Alan told Dr. Olivia Martinez, who had become the head of Human-Alien Scientific Cooperation. "The distortions don't follow any pattern we can predict." "Then we need to try something completely different," Olivia replied. "Something no logical species would consider." On Earth, the changes were just as dramatic. Alien technology helped clean the oceans and restore damaged ecosystems. Most cities now had alien visitors walking their streets, and humans had to adjust to seeing beings with extra limbs or unusual features in their local grocery stores. Schools added new subjects like galactic history and comparative biology. Children grew up knowing their future might include living on distant worlds. Some humans worried about becoming too dependent on alien technology. Others feared losing Earth's culture as it blended with alien influences. But most agreed that the partnership had brought more good than harm. In his quarters after the meeting with the Atraxian officers, Steve looked out a window at the stars. His new battle strategy would be tested tomorrow against the pirates. If it worked, it would save lives and resources. He thought about how strange it was that his creative thinking, something so basic to being human, was now his greatest asset. The very qualities that had sometimes made him feel out of place on Earth were exactly what the galaxy needed. A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. An urgent message was coming in from Earth Command. Steve pressed the screen to accept it, then frowned as he read the brief text. Warning to all human consultants. Multiple disappearances reported. Exercise caution. Details to follow. Detective Maria Diaz had investigated many cases in her 15 years with the Chicago police, but nothing had prepared her for hunting missing persons across multiple star systems. She studied the holographic files floating in front of her. 7 human consultants had disappeared in the past month. They worked on different planets for different alien species. The only connection was that all were highly successful at their jobs. "Any updates, Detective?" asked Captain Lee, entering the small office Maria had been given on the Nexus. After the disappearances began, Earth Command had created a special investigation unit, and Maria was chosen to lead it. "Maybe," she said, pointing to a pattern she had noticed. Each person vanished after attending a scientific conference or cultural event, places with lots of different alien species present. It had been 2 weeks since Maria arrived on the Nexus. The Confederation Council promised full cooperation, but so far she had found more questions than answers. "I need to visit the last place Jason Miller was seen," she told Captain Lee. Jason was a musician who had disappeared from a cultural festival on Zithran Prime 3 days ago. The next day, Maria walked through the festival grounds with Krell, her Zithrani guide. The area was still busy with aliens from dozens of worlds enjoying art, music, and food from across the galaxy. "Jason performed on this stage," Krell said, pointing to a circular platform. "After his performance, he attended a reception in that building. Security records show he left alone and headed toward the transport hub. He never arrived there." Maria noticed something on a wall near the path Jason would have taken, a small symbol etched into the metal, 3 circles arranged in a triangle. She had seen the same mark near 2 other disappearance sites. "What does this symbol mean?" she asked Krell. The Zithrani's gills fluttered in what Maria had learned was a sign of concern. "It is the mark of the Purists, a group that believes the Confederation should reject outside influences. They think alien cultures should remain separate. They don't like humans sharing our creativity," Maria said, understanding dawning. "They see us as contaminating their civilizations." Back on the Nexus, Maria shared her discovery with the Council. Elder Vora looked troubled as she examined the evidence. "The Purists have existed for centuries, but they were always a small, peaceful group," the Elder said. "This level of aggression is new. And dangerous," added Ambassador Krell. "Our intelligence suggests they have grown significantly in the past year. Their leader is General Drex of the Sovan Empire." Maria had heard of the Sovans. They were a militaristic species known for their strict adherence to tradition. They had reluctantly joined the Confederation 500 years ago, but maintained their distance from other species. "I need to speak with this General Drex," Maria said. "Impossible," replied a Sovan representative. "General Drex is conducting military exercises in the outer regions. He cannot be reached." Maria didn't believe this for a second. Her instincts told her Drex was hiding something. That night, she received an encrypted message on her communication device. The sender was unknown, but the content made her blood run cold. "The humans must be stopped before it's too late. They are changing us in ways we cannot allow. We have discovered the old texts that speak of the purification wave. It will target the neural pathways responsible for creativity without harming physical bodies. The humans will be the first to be cleansed, then any aliens corrupted by their influence. The galaxy will return to logical order." The message ended with coordinates for a remote Sovan outpost. Maria immediately contacted Captain Lee and showed him the message. "This could be a trap," he warned. "Or our only lead," she replied. "While you alert the Council, I'll take a small team to investigate these coordinates." 24 hours later, Maria and 3 security officers approached the Sovan outpost in a small, unmarked ship. According to their scans, the facility appeared mostly abandoned, with only a few life signs detected. As they prepared to dock, Maria's pilot pointed to a larger ship leaving the far side of the outpost. "That's a Sovan warship," he said. "And look at their course. They're heading directly toward the Nexus." Maria felt a chill as she realized what was happening. This wasn't just about kidnapping a few humans. The Purists were planning something much bigger. They needed to warn the Confederation immediately, but the outpost was jamming their communications. "We need to get inside and stop that jamming field," she told her team. "The lives of every creative thinker in the galaxy might depend on it." Daniel Foster sat at the control panel of the Nexus's main communication center, his fingers flying over the alien keyboard. Warning lights flashed overhead as the station's defense systems activated. The Sovan warship had just dropped out of faster-than-light travel and was approaching rapidly. "How much time do we have?" asked Dr. Laura Hayes, who stood beside him. The quantum physicist had been working on solutions to the space-time distortions when the emergency call came. 20 minutes, maybe less," Daniel replied, not looking up from his work. "How's the shield coming?" Laura adjusted settings on her tablet. "I've reconfigured it based on what Detective Diaz told us about the purification wave, but I don't know if it will block the weapon completely." 3 hours earlier, Maria Diaz had managed to disable the jamming field at the Sovan outpost and warned the Nexus about the attack. The Council had immediately ordered an evacuation of all non-essential personnel, but many humans and aliens remained on board, working desperately to find a way to stop General Drex. The purification wave targets neural pathways associated with creativity. Laura explained to the gathered team of humans and aliens. "If it works as the purists claim, it will essentially lobotomize the creative parts of our brains." "Not just humans," added Elder Vora, her ancient face grim. "Any species that has embraced creative thinking will be affected." Daniel, who had been a professional poker player before becoming a strategy consultant for the Confederation, spoke up. "We need to think like the purists don't expect us to. What's the one thing a logical enemy would never anticipate?" "Illogical behavior," said Alan Rodriguez, who had arrived from Centauri Station to help. "Exactly." Daniel smiled. "They expect us to either fight or run. So we'll do neither." The plan they developed was risky, based on bluffing and misdirection, skills Daniel had perfected at poker tables back on Earth. While Laura worked on a partial shield to protect the Nexus, Daniel and Alan prepared a special transmission. Now, as the Sovan warship moved into position, Daniel sent the message. On the main screen, General Drex appeared. His face was gray and angular, with eyes that showed no emotion. "Your defenses cannot stop the purification wave," Drex said flatly. "Surrender the humans and any corrupted aliens. The rest will be spared." Daniel stepped into view of the camera. "General Drex, we know about the weapon. But did you test it properly before bringing it here?" Drex's expression didn't change. "The ancient texts provide clear instructions about a technology that's 50,000 years old," Daniel countered. "Did you know that your weapon will interact with the space-time distortions this station is currently studying? The same distortions affecting travel throughout the Confederation." This was the bluff. There was no evidence the weapon would interact with the distortions, but Daniel bet that the logical purists wouldn't have considered this possibility. Doubt flickered across Drex's face. "Explain." Laura stepped forward. "The purification wave generates a field that affects neural pathways. Our research shows that the space-time distortions respond to such fields. Triggering your weapon here could create a cascading reaction that would expand the distortions exponentially." Ellen joined them. "We've calculated that it could cut off entire sectors of the galaxy from each other, including Sovan space." The three humans stood together, faces serious. Behind the camera, Elder Vora and other council members watched anxiously. The humans were taking an enormous gamble. Long seconds passed as Drex consulted with his officers. Finally, he said, "We will verify your claims before proceeding." "I suggest a joint research team," Daniel said quickly. "Purists and Confederation scientists working together to understand both the weapon and the distortions." To everyone's surprise, Drex agreed. Perhaps even he recognized that isolation was no longer viable in a connected galaxy. 6 months later, Daniel stood with Laura and many others in the Grand Hall of the Nexus. The joint research had led to unexpected breakthroughs. The purification wave technology, once meant to destroy creativity, had been modified to help stabilize the space-time distortions. More importantly, the crisis had shown even the purists that logic alone wasn't enough. The very unpredictability they feared in humans had saved them all. The Confederation will change, Elder Vora said in her speech to the assembled representatives. We will preserve our logical foundations while embracing the creative spark we once lost. Humans have reminded us that the greatest strength comes not from choosing between logic and creativity, but from uniting them. Daniel looked around at the diverse beings filling the hall, humans and aliens standing together.